we are all very committed, passionate public servants. We choose to do this. We want to do it, and we want to do it well. What's happening out there in LA is unfortunate. What you haven't heard is you haven't heard anybody out there who's wearing a uniform and a badge complain. They haven't complained about the work. They haven't complained about not eating for 12 hours. They haven't complained about not sleeping. I would just say that coupled with now let's go to the fun side of things and playing a sport, being competitive, staying healthy. That's the message that we want to send.
James King, the president of the California Police Athletic Federation, or CPAF. James has dedicated his career to supporting first responders from his 30 years as a firefighter to his leadership roles in public safety and athletics. With the recent horrific and devastating LA fires still in our minds, it seems like perfect timing to explore the incredible work that CPAF does to support first responders through wellness, camaraderie, and resilience. I wanted to find out how you went from being a firefighter to leading the California Police Athletic Federation. How did we get from point A to point B?
Well, it's been quite a journey. I'm retired from the Indianapolis Fire Department, and I did that for 30 years and loved every day of it. And it was a great opportunity. I had so many wonderful experiences and met so many incredible people along the way. But through my association with the fire department, actually prior to that, back in high school, I was a competitive power lifter. I lifted in AAU. I played high school football, went to college, continued powerlifting, was in the Air Force and continued lifting weights and doing those kinds of things. And then when I got to the fire department again, and it wasn't a career choice that I had ever planned on, but one of the things that it allowed me to do was to continue to be a competitive powerlifter. And so not just working out in the firehouse, but the camaraderie of lifting with other, police officers and firefighters and different folks. And I started locally and lifted here in Indianapolis. And then, it went from that to the opportunity to compete on a world stage with the World Police and Fire Games. And, again, it was just such an incredible opportunity for me. It allowed me to continue my athletic endeavors, but it also gave me an outlet. I've always been very respectful of the camaraderie that the fire department has. And the fire department is no different than the military or no different than a fraternity house. Maybe some would laugh at that analogy, but it's the togetherness and the closeness and the brotherhood and sisterhood that you get to experience along the way. So with that being said, my start with the games actually happened 30 years ago, and it's incredible to think that. But when I was a young firefighter, I had, continued to lift weights and traveled around the world and was successful and had a really good time. Well, as luck would have it, coincidentally, Indianapolis was bidding to host those same games, the World Police and Fire Games. And so I had an opportunity to get involved with that committee here in the city. And I literally started out sweeping floors and changing light bulbs and doing whatever to assist in that regard, and worked my way through the organization to where I was one of the co-chairs of sports, the sports division here for the 2001 World Police and Fire Games. And so that was my direct connection to this organization. Now, for the 6 years that I worked towards those games, I had no idea that this was even possible. And quite honestly, I never thought of it in that way. I enjoyed my role as the director of sports and enjoyed the people, the opportunity to not just be a competitor, but to completely flip the script and then, look at it from a different angle. And boy, what an angle, it turned out to be. But with that being said, after our games, I was offered an opportunity to join the board of directors for the World Police and Fire Games Federation at the time. And they brought me on as an associate director. And, in less than 2 years, I was in Barcelona, Spain, now in charge of the powerlifting event for the World Police and Fire Games. And it was just incredible. It was just everything that you could imagine. Again, the camaraderie and the culture and the athletes and just everything, the pageantry. I was hooked,
Yeah.
And so from the very beginning, it was something that I was extremely passionate about. And as time would go along, the bylaws of our organization changed, because there was a period in time where, as a firefighter and not being a resident of California, it wasn't possible for me to serve on that board. I could be an associate director through the World Games side, but I couldn't be on CPAF. And those folks had the forethought and foresight to see that there needed to be a change, and they changed the bylaws and they opened it up to, a whole new group of folks, the firefighters. And I just happened to be one of the lucky ones that was asked to even join that organization. And it led one thing to another. I was vice president, and then now the board of directors just this past year appointed me as president of the whole thing. And so it is the California Police Athletic Federation, but we are a holistic public service organization. So we don't discriminate anymore against anybody. Our roots and our start began in San Diego at the San Diego Police Department, but our founder, who was a deputy chief at that time with San Diego PD, he started the organization, hence the California Police Athletic Federation name. But it has been nothing but a wonderful journey, and I have been so blessed to get the opportunity to do, what I have done, and to serve the public as a firefighter and get to do this. It's almost unbelievable.
Well, it is. And I think that one of the things that I thought a lot of people might get out of this and appreciate about this conversation is all of the work that CPAF really does, and that you're the one sharing it, that it's from somebody who has himself been a part of this community, both as an athlete, but also as a firefighter, somebody who is not coming from the outside from an organizational standpoint, but somebody who truly understands that culture, that community, and what goes into all of that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about CPAF's mission. Can you tell us a little bit about why? Why was it founded? What is the mission? How has it evolved over time?
Well, as I mentioned, Duke Nias is our founder, and Duke was in World War II. That gives you an idea of when he was a very young man. But Duke was a competitive archer, and so he was an extremely good person at shooting a bow and in archery. And this is competitive archery. And as Duke left the Navy, I believe that he served in, and he relocated in San Diego, he wanted an outlet, and he joined the police services. Well, in those days, there wasn't, competitions like there are now. And so Duke and one of our co-founders, if you will, Bob Burke, who was a police officer at LAPD, they came together and they actually built the organization. They started the very first games there in San Diego in '67. And those games have happened every summer. That is still the United States Police and Fire Championships. So the longevity has proven itself. And we have had thousands of athletes through the years. And it started in California, and it was predominantly based there in California. But the history is still something that we all respect, and we still admire Duke and his efforts. But the mission was just that. It was an opportunity to gather as public servants, to get involved in some sort of competitive sport that you participated in. And the byproducts of that are things that we still, aspire today. And that's the wellness initiatives that come along with this. So, public safety thrives on having a healthy workforce. It's one of the tenets that you have to be, or you should be, in decent shape and able to, carry yourself. And so this just lends itself to that beginning. And our mission statement, I don't have it reminded, but it was to unite public safety athletes in an Olympic style experience. And that was Duke's original kind of quote that he had for that. But we endeavor to encourage health and wellness among all public safety personnel and create lifelong memories for the athletes, their families, and the communities we serve. Our people are the best of the best, and I truly believe that. And I would never put myself into that category. I'm talking about the folks that are doing it today, the folks that are still working today, that are doing those things that I've had the good honor to, associate with, from not just here in America, but from around the world. It is amazing how like-minded public safety is. And I don't care if you're a firefighter from Brazil, from Italy, from Spain, from, Sweden, you name it. We're all cut from the same cloth. And it's the same thing with law enforcement. So again, it's been an incredible journey, and to be associated with those kind of people, it really, I'm honored. I almost don't have words to say how appreciative I am of being involved with that.
This isn't something that we discussed before, but something you just said, I have to ask, when was the first time that you had an exchange with someone as part of the games internationally, where you realize that that camaraderie, that community, that there's that bond that goes across any sort of, country borders or anything like that, that you have that connection no matter where you are in the world?
Well, I would go back to 1995 when I was in Melbourne, Australia. And, Melbourne was a previous Olympic host city. So, that's the kind of good company that our event has kept. But we were there for the World Police and Fire Games, and the welcoming we received, and, from all Australians, not just the athletes that we met, but, we got in a cab, and this gentleman, when he heard our accent, it's funny, he said we had an accent, but he said, "Oh, you're Yanks," I think is what he called us. And I said, "Yeah, we are." And we got to talking. Well, he turned the meter off and he gave us a tour, and
Wow.
I was blown away by this. I mean, he didn't have to do that, but he did it. And we met so many people in that regard, police, fire, customs, corrections, you name it. And their hospitality was absolutely incredible. And so it really started from the minute of getting off, the plane and the first cab ride, if you will. But when you're in the moment, powerlifting is an individual sport. But for me and for a lot of others, my success is also attached to other people having success. If they get their lift and I'm next in line, then man, I am really charged up, and it just really motivates me even more to be successful on the platform. But you get to know those folks, hey, can you help spot me on this? Or, I will spot you. You change, equipment and patches. And so it's really incredible that the games provide those sort of opportunities. But it started from the minute I got out of the plane in Australia. I was hooked.
That's amazing. Well, I can't, I mentioned it in the intro, and I can't go too far without talking about something that's been on everyone's minds lately. The Los Angeles wildfires and the first responders who dealt with that, just awful, terrible situation. How is CPAF currently supporting athletes and communities impacted by those fires?
Well, certainly, the first thing I need to say is that, we've certainly supported from wherever we are, whether it's afar or we're right there. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those folks. Many of my board members live in the LA area. Thankfully, none of them were directly impacted, but, these are all current or former police officers or firefighters. And, to know that struggle, we're, as me being, the chief of the organization, if you will, it hits home. I called all of them immediately and said, "Hey, are you okay? And is everything all right? And is your family's okay?" And that's kind of where it begins, is that human side of things. But it's bigger than that. Our organization, we're connected to a lot of these people. And we're rooted within those organizations, the LA County Fire, LA City Fire, Cal Fire. Those are the three largest organizations from a fire standpoint that are there, fighting these incidents. But all the law enforcement, LA County Sheriff, Los Angeles Police Department, San Bernardino, Riverside, you name it. There are agencies from everywhere. And then, when you hear there's firefighting forces that have come from Mexico and from Canada, And we have athletes that come to our games from both of those countries on a world games level. We've got organizations from the federal government. We have the U.S. Park Service. We have a group of athletes that come to our games from the federal firefighting forces that are just outstanding people. And their job is to travel around and support these kinds of incidents and fight these kinds of fires. So we're definitely connected to that. I will tell you that as an organization, one thing that we did directly is we immediately contacted what has been a partner of ours, and it's an organization that shows up at working incidents such as this, and they feed the first responders, and they provide barbecue meals, and it's Operation Barbecue. I hope I can say their name, but these are incredible folks, and they don't get paid to do this. They show up and they feed the public servants. And when you think about how large of an incident this is, and there are thousands, I heard at one time that there were 15,000 responders on the fire line and the front line. Well, who feeds those folks? Where do they eat? Where do they get something to drink? So we immediately reached out to Operation Barbecue and asked if they were set up yet and what that was going to look like. They did get back with us. We provided some financial support to them in the form of a donation. And we know that they're out there working, and believe me, we're proud of them just as much as we are, the folks that are out there on the fire line and have been working, tirelessly for the last, 3 weeks.
Gosh.
Without any breaks. It's literally incredible. So we're just a small part of the big picture, but we're certainly, I'm very proud to be associated with these folks. This job is the hardest job in the world. And these folks have been doing it nonstop now for weeks, and they just don't get enough credit. And we don't do it for credit. They're not doing it for thanks or a pat on the back. But I'll tell you what, I would be remiss if I didn't remind everyone that's listening right now that once this incident is done, these folks don't go away. They go back to work, and it never stops. And that's what it takes to be a true public servant, in my eyes, is that constant show of grit, determination, and dedication to serving the public. And these folks are doing a great job of it.
It is that sort of emotional support, that wellness, that well-being that plays into everything that leads up to these games that you have. And so it's like, I think that it's fascinating to look at that exhibition of strength and endurance, of just athleticism that offers this other way to support this group of people. So can we talk a little bit about what makes the 2025, and I'm going to say the United States Police and Fire Championships, such a unique event for first responders and the broader public safety community? Actually,
it's a great question, but it's an easy answer. Our uniqueness comes from our offerings, the fact that we exist. There are other events out there similar to ours, but with the USPFC and the World Games side of things, we stand alone. Our events are held to the highest standards. All of our rules are based off of international governing body standards. Our officiating is held to those standards. Our venues, we try to get to those kinds of venues. We're at the very least, we're at a Division I level college facility. But again, we've held our events in former Olympic host venues. So the offerings is what makes us unique. And, there's so many people in life in general, but not just in public safety, that, they ran track and field in high school, and say they did the decathlon, or they did, the long jump or the pole vault. Well, where do you do that when you get out of school and you're living your life? Well, we offer that. We are that outlet, and we give folks a continuing opportunity to practice those skills and enjoy, doing those skill sets. And you pick an event that the Olympics have, we have that, but we also have our unique industry specific events, such as the stair race, the ultimate firefighter, canine events. police action pistol shooting, SWAT events. So that's what makes us unique, and that's what makes this special. Is we fill sort of that gap from the weekend warrior that still wants to be competitive. And I'm not saying weekend warrior to be disrespectful. Believe me, we have people that are even in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that are still incredibly fit, that have been an athlete their whole life. And I'm proud to say that our organization has been a part of that journey. And so I think that in itself makes it unique. And we provide that outlet for our public safety folks, and we're certainly proud of them.
Is it wrong that there's part of me that is looking at this and saying, like, I don't know, Olympians, I don't know what you've got compared to these guys. It's kind of like, I know I shouldn't do that, but there is a part of me that's saying, like, I don't know, they're fighting fires and doing this stuff. Like, what are you doing?
Well, from a selfish standpoint, I don't mean to be braggadocious, but I consider our athletes to be the best true amateur athletes in the world. They're professionals at very difficult tasks that a lot of people don't want to do and can't do, but yet they get out there, they put that uniform on, and they represent their communities and their families every single day, putting their life at risk in servitude of others. But yet at the same time, hey, I'm going to play cornhole and be one of the best in the world, or I'm going to still throw javelin, or, participate in a shot put competition at an Olympic level, if you will. So you're not wrong in that. And I am certainly proud to be able to say that I am very proud of our athletes. The passion that they have for the job, as we call it, it comes through in these sporting events. And the connection is unbelievable. When you see them, you just see the pride that they take in wearing that uniform. And then it transcends itself to, an athletic competition where they can kind of let their hair down, if you will, if they've got hair, unlike me, but they can let their hair down and have a good time, and relieve some of the stresses that come with that job. But they do it because they love it. And that's what makes it most special. They do their own training. They pay for their own way. They go out and, have car washes and things to get sponsorship to be able to attend these games. And so it's the whole package again that I'm really proud of our folks and what they do and what they represent.
And it's not a small thing. I mean, you're talking about, I have numbers here, and I know there are all kinds of different games, but if we're just talking about this United States Police and Fire Championships, I have in my notes over 2,700 athletes and 28 venues involved. That's a lot. It's enormous. How do you manage and foster engagement with such a large and diverse group?
Well, lots of practice, experience. And I'm proud to say that my board I'm not unique on my board of directors. My board of directors is, you could be talking to any of them, and you would be talking to someone just like me. They all started out as athletes. They had a passion for an event, and they stayed with it. And then it turned into, volunteering for our organization and becoming a director and doing these things. So it comes with years and years of experience on multiple levels to do this. But the engagement part, we know our athletes, a lot of them literally by name. We see them either every year at the USPFC or every 2 years at the World Games. And, that camaraderie is incredible. I still see athletes that I saw when I competed my first time in the World Games. And, there's no price on that. I mean, 36 years of involvement, and you still see folks that you have a relationship with. So obviously there's a lot of time and effort involved, an absolute mountain of compassion by everybody that stays involved. But we're blessed to have an incredible staff. We have incredible volunteers, and our board of directors is so committed that I'm just proud to be in the room with these folks, let alone be given the opportunity to lead that group. But it's something that really is special. The 28 venues, we have 35 sports in the USPFC. We offer 70 sports in the World Police and Fire Games, and we get over 10,000 athletes to the World Games. So But the USPFC, you're right. That 2,700 number that we're looking at, that's again been a COVID number that we're bouncing back from. We are seeing a steady increase. And what's really important about that figure is we're seeing a percentage of folks that had never been to our games before. And that tells me that we're reaching the next audience. Younger police officers and firefighters are like, what is this? Oh, hey, can I wrestle? Well, absolutely. We offer freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling. Please join us. Or can I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA? Can I play pool, billiards? Can I, play cornhole? Or can I play dodgeball? Some things that are really, really fun, but yet still competitive. Yeah.
It sounds so exciting. I mean, I have to say that there's something about it that it's first responders who are out there saving lives and doing all of this stuff. And anyway, it's almost like watching superheroes, right?
But no, you use the term heroes, and that's one thing that I can speak of personally. Most, if not all, public safety folks, they shy away from that term. They know what they signed up for, and they're willing to accept those risks, and they do it, on a daily basis. And I appreciate the admiration that you're showing toward these folks, because I feel that way about them. But most of them would say, I'm not really a hero. I'm just lucky that I get to do what I do. And that's what, again, makes me so proud to be associated with these kind of people.
Even knowing that what they're signing up for, it is admirable. And from my perspective, heroic. And association chat, my audience is association executives, people who are primarily looking at how do we engage with different brands and companies and sponsors for our events. And I imagine with something like this, you have some pretty interesting types of collaborations that you figure out and partnerships that you figure out. What does that look like? What are some examples that you could share with me?
Well, it is. It's a lot like a lot of your associations that you deal with. We are a nonprofit in the state of California, a 501c3. So every dollar that we get, be it through sponsorship or through our own purposes and fundraising, they go right back, to our athletes. And we have a very small paid staff and an office based in San Diego. That's where our offices are located. But you know what? We do enough to keep the lights on. And obviously this has worked since 1967. So we're proud that we have the longevity. But our relationship with our sponsors, I'm going to say, is a little bit different. And what I mean by that is we've actually tried to build a relationship with our sponsors. We invite them to our events. And so if you're a sponsor that's involved in the USPFC, the World Police and Fire Games, or our first responder relay, we invite you to that event so you can see everything that I've described to you and you've asked me about in this call. They get a chance to feel that, because really that's what you have to do. You've got to come out and see the competitive spirit, but witness the camaraderie, it's super competitive. I mean, police versus fire is always going to be a knockdown drag out, but at the end of it, it's high fives and hugs and I love yous. And, all of those things, are prevalent. And the sponsors, when they see that, they know that they're a part of something. It's not just sponsoring a brand or sponsoring an event, but there is, as you just said, there is true meaning to that. But we try and build a relationship with those folks. And I think we've been successful in that regard. And a few of our sponsors, they just love us, because they get to come and be a part of it. And it's part of that camaraderie that public safety has always experienced. So it's good to share.
What message or call to action would you like to share with our audience about supporting CPAF and its initiatives?
There's been a lot of the mention of camaraderie in this call. And, the people that come to our games are the same folks that are working literally right now in LA. Some of those folks are the exact same people. And to have that outlet is important for multiple reasons. The wellness aspect, not just physically, but mentally. Public safety is extremely difficult and can be devastating. I've heard stories. I don't know anyone personally of public safety folks in LA who were on the fire line and then found out that their house was lost. And so imagine doing that. And I'm sure that those people were given a short respite to go home and check on the family, but then they would go back to work. And I would just say that we are all very committed, passionate public servants. We choose to do this. We want to do it, and we want to do it well. What's happening out there in LA is unfortunate. All public safety was really put to a task that was virtually insurmountable when it got started at no fault of theirs. What you haven't heard is you haven't heard anybody out there who's wearing a uniform and a badge complain. They haven't complained about the work. They haven't complained about not eating for 12 hours. They haven't complained about not sleeping. I would just say that coupled with now let's go to the fun side of things and playing a sport, being competitive, staying healthy. That's the message that we want to send. We're about that camaraderie and support of our public service athletes. We're proud of them. We respect them and we love them and are glad that they were able to have some outlet with us. And we hope to see them in June of 25.
Well, June of 25, it's coming soon. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, spending this time. I want to thank you also. I know you say you're retired and all of it, and you've moved, but your role is really important. And I'm thankful for all of the years of service leading up to this point and the work that you're doing now to support CPAF and all of these athletes that are out there doing the good work that they do every day. And also, seeking to achieve that kind of community, camaraderie, wellness, and supporting each other when they're doing such an important job for all of us out here. So thank you for all of that.